Cobra Kai hoodie, check. Cobra Kai mug, check. The blood of my enemies, check. Good afternoon, book lovers of the internet. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe because for every subscriber, I get a new subscriber. And I also read a page from a book of my choice. I am Book Nerd 802, and in this video, I am going to be reviewing Cobra Kai Season 6, Part 3. Now, I enjoyed this show quite a lot. I watched it on the day it was released on the 13th of February, so it's already been a week and a half since I watched it. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars, and I did write 2 pages of notes about the show in order to be able to make a video. So it's a good thing that I'd been practicing on how to feel totally alone on Valentine's Day for several years because saying goodbye to this show was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. Now, in my opinion, this is definitely one of the most underrated shows ever, and it is certainly one of my favorite shows to exist. I watched the show while I was cycling, and I managed to cycle for more than 50 kilometers once I was watching the show. And during Miguel Diaz's fight, my heart rate went from 120 to 150 beats per minute. And there will be several spoilers in this video, so if you haven't yet watched the final part of Cobra Kai, I advise you against watching this video. So, as I mentioned, I managed to find it online because I do not have access to Netflix, so I watched it on the day it was released. And honestly, I went through all the motions. I loved, I cried. I went through bouts of rage and surges of adrenaline as well. And as Chris put it, it's a very bittersweet conclusion. They were interviewing the actors after the show was over, and Chris mentioned that it's a bittersweet conclusion, and I totally agree with him about that. And yeah, I'm basically taking a look at my notes at the moment. One thing I wish to point out is how awesome the use of the AC/DC music is. I feel as though that it makes the show much better too. I mean, the fighting sequences are great, the cast is brilliant, the conversations are delightful, the suspense, the action, it's all there. Um, it's one of the shows that I think I've invested most time in the 22 years that I've been alive, and I have no regrets. Cobra Kai never dies after all. It was delightful to see how everything came full circle and how all the broken characters redeemed themselves, except for one of them, to be honest, who was rotten to the core until the very end, even though the way his character started off would have been better without the introduction of another inside of it. I am talking, of course, about the character of Terry Silver. Johnny Lawrence has to be one of the greatest ever written characters, and he went from an ace degenerate, the best degenerate ever, to an ex degenerate, which goes to show how much he managed to change and how he managed to make his life so much better over the course of a couple of years. I mean, I've been watching this show for many years now as well, and I feel as though not only has Johnny Lawrence's character changed, developed, and matured, but I feel as though William Zabka, the actor himself, also learned a lot through portraying this role. So winning the Sekai Taikai alongside Miguel made me very happy, and even though the show did come to an end, it's awesome that Cobra Kai never dies after all they went through. They finally managed to bring Johnny Lawrence back to fight the sensei of the Iron Dragons because it all ended in a tie. I definitely wasn't expecting that. Daniel LaRusso was rooting for Johnny Lawrence, which was also brilliant. There are so many parallels one can draw between the movies and the show, and even across one season to another, there are several um, interesting details that can be pointed out in order to see the contrast, the changes. We lost many great characters. Um, Kreese and Silver are apparently no more. Although for some reason I don't think Kreese died when he blew up Silver's yacht. Honestly, I don't think that Kreese is the sort of character who would die that easily, even though he was redeeming himself. It would be an ideal conclusion for Kreese's character, but I can't help but think that Kreese managed to survive the explosion of the yacht, to be honest, because Kreese was defending Johnny's family because Silver was threatening to kidnap or murder Johnny's wife and newborn daughter. The way Johnny and Chris resolved their issues was very wholesome as well. Honestly, that scene really brought me to tears, where Johnny completely put himself in a vulnerable position towards Chris, who can be considered as his father at this point, and they made up. There weren't any boundaries anymore. Honestly, it was very wholesome, um, very delightful to see. I mean, it did bring a tear to my eye because after all they've been through, I wasn't expecting them to fix everything with a simple hug. I mean, Johnny literally expressed everything he'd been storing inside of his chest for all those years, and Chris was able to understand completely and apologize. Um, it was also lovely seeing Daniel and Johnny get along so well since they have been rivals for such a long time. And honestly, their conclusion is fantastic as well. So, one thing I have to mention is that in my eyes, Johnny will always be the Karate Kid, and I don't think that Daniel ever stood a chance against Johnny with regard to being the Karate Kid. It's very fascinating to me to see that Cobra Kai came along because of a joke on one How I Met Your Mother episode, and it very quickly developed into one of my favorite shows of all time. And How I Met Your Mother is certainly one of my favorites as well, but I'm completely with Neil Patrick Harris's opinion on this one. Johnny Lawrence is definitely the Karate Kid. Barney Stinson is, of course, right in that regard, in my opinion. And I'm disappointed by the fact that most characters, mainly Hawk, for instance, got so little screen time considering how we've been seeing them develop for so long. This is part of the reason why I rated it 4 out of 5 stars instead of 5 out of 5 stars. I was hoping to see them um, have more to do during this season, this final part of season 6, but they didn't. And Hawken, in particular, is also one of my favorite characters in the show, and I feel as though he was robbed on so many levels. This final part, I mean, admittedly, was mainly about Johnny and Miguel, and I'm not disappointed that they were the focus because it ended the way it started, and there was a fantastic resolution. Can't really complain about that. But honestly, Hawk especially definitely deserved more screen time in every season, since probably season 4, I would say. I'm also glad that Axel decided to fight with honor against Miguel when he could have easily broken his spine, and this is one of the reasons why I feel as though the conclusion was rushed. I mean, things turned out too well. There were so many sudden changes of heart, and not every decision came across as realistic, but um, plot armor really saved a couple of characters here. Robbie was unfortunately not so lucky. I mean, Robbie also deserved better, but at least he got screen time. Um, Robbie didn't really win anything, but he managed to get a job alongside Tori as well, which can't really complain about that decision. I mean, somebody had to take the fall for Cobra Kai to win the whole thing. Um, and in certain cases, it was also hard to believe that some words of encouragement had such a massive impact on the respective characters' mindsets in that moment. So they'd been training for this tournament for a very long time, and on the mat when they're doing horribly, some words of encouragement seem to apparently change everything. That didn't really come across as realistic either. I feel as though Kwon's death was also not really tackled correctly, and the way this season was structured, it felt as though everyone was simply eager to move on despite a child having been killed during a karate tournament, which honestly did come across as unexpected, but to be fair, nobody really liked Kwon to begin with. He was quite an asshole, so that has to be said as well. And it's also true that several months seem to have passed between part 2 and part 3, so they have had some time to get over it, I would say. Um, though many of the characters do seem to have aged quite a lot, not only because, of course, you would age realistically, but also because of what happened to Kwon in the prior part of season 6. What else is there to say? Um, It's true, yeah, that several months seem to have passed, and honestly, Kwon's death should have opened the eyes of many to the dangers of karate rather than cause them to want to fight even more, which was the case. They all wanted to conclude what they had started in the tournament. What I found to be very cool was the inclusion of virtual reality, whereby Hawk and Dimitri helped Robbie train against Axel, who was really Miguel listening to instructions on how to imitate Axel's fighting style. I have to admit that the Iron Dragons were extremely badass, and they were also nerfed quite a lot in this season, of course, once again because of plot armor. And it's only fair to say that both Miguel and Johnny had plot armor, although Johnny particularly impressed me with some sick moves, which I imagined would be difficult to pull at his age. I didn't think he would be so dexterous, so flexible, considering that he is um, I believe more than 50 years old. He kind of blew my mind with all his stunts, and I was also glad to see that Tori got a happy ending, and so did Chosen. Chosen is definitely one of the funniest characters in this season, and I would love to see more of Chosen's character. I feel as though he got a happy conclusion as well. Um, but yeah, I think one of the most badass scenes was when the Iron Dragons thought they had it all won, and then Miguel came in to represent Cobra Kai, and Cobra Kai all of a sudden became the center of attention once again. But that is all I had to say about Cobra Kai. I'm very happy to be able to say that Cobra Kai never dies. Very happy to have been part of this journey, and I wish to have been part of the show itself. Perhaps in the future, there will be some spin-offs about the characters. There had been rumors that Hawk was going to die in the season. I can put your minds at rest that he didn't. Um, and then there is also Dimitri, who isn't going to MIT anymore, apparently, because he wishes to spend more time with Hawk, who is apparently one of his best friends, and they'd been calling MIT TMI behind his back. I love to see that show creators take the advice of the people watching in comment sections or making a mockery through memes of a show and then fix it or incorporate it as part of the show. That always makes the show better, in my opinion, when the creators listen to the advice of the viewers. I mean, this is definitely one of the most underrated shows of all time. I would definitely recommend you watch it from start to finish. If you enjoy sports, if you want something that's suspenseful, that consists of drama and action, that will um, keep you wanting to watch the episodes at the expense of sleep even. This is definitely the show for you. So yeah, that is all I had to say about Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 3. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Take a look at the rest of my videos because why not? They are absolutely amazing. And I will see you in the next one, hopefully very, very soon. Bye guys.